What's up, guys? Welcome to the Standing for Reason podcast, where we are not for the faint of thought. This is Mike and Alex. I kind of like doing this twice a week. I feel a little bit more deflated. How about you?
Yeah, it helps out, and I think the format too, where the first half's news, the second half is more what we can do and still kind of what's going on. So yeah, it's working out so far.
Yeah, and guys, before I forget, let us know what you think about splitting the format. If you guys would like, we can throw this back into one show again. We wanted to split it up so it would it would give us more time. That way, we're not hitting everything once a week. When new news comes out, we can hit it twice as we'll do today. But let us know what you guys think at aorpodcast.com or on the Facebook page, or just send us a private email, whatever you want to do. So anyway, let's jump right into it. So just a few pieces of breaking news here that's taken place since our episode AOR News earlier this week. Trump's ban has been officially blocked by a court panel of 3 judges. They voted unanimously 3-0 to block. Trump did, as he normally does, the Twitter in chief put out a tweet saying, "I will see you in court." So this is likely to go to the Supreme Court. However, he has nominated Gorsuch, but he won't be ready yet. So this is probably going to go to a 4-4 split. If that happens, the initial ruling from today stands.
I would be cautious to say that it would go to a 4-4 split. I think that our Supreme Court justice, even the conservative ones, they would realize the lack of evidence, because I've read a couple articles regarding the back and forth between the attorneys and the judges, and it seemed like Trump's choices just, and again, it's a hard thing to defend. It's a hard thing to put forth, but they just couldn't make their case at all, and the judges were just killing them basically.
Yeah, basically, what are you doing here without doing your homework? But you may be right, because Gorsuch is also, there's some stuff going around right now that he spoke to he was having a closed door conversation with a liberal judge somewhere on the East Coast. I forget where. We're bringing you guys more details about this next week, but basically there's 2 people coming out and saying that Gorsuch was saying that Trump attacking the Seattle judge that we spoke about earlier this week that initially put a stop to the ban is demoralizing to all court officials and judges. So Gorsuch, he's going to be conservative. I mean, he's not going to vote for the social policies, and this is what you and I have talked about this whole time. The social progress that we've made over the last 6 years going down the tubes. This guy's most likely going to be the person to do that. But it looks like he's not going to be, I don't know if this is true. He's not going to be as much of a puppet as we thought he would. Possibly. Who the fuck knows?
Yeah, I think I tend to have more respect for judges than politicians.
Right.
They are a little more morally filled, I guess. But we'll see, how it goes. But
yeah, and so that's going on. We'll update you guys on our episode next week on AOR News for what's happening there. And one last thing, nobody talks about it enough, including us. So we just want to give a quick shout out to what's going on in Standing Rock. The Army Corps of Engineers has approved the construction based on Trump's executive order. And I mean, there's video of this guy basically saying that he signed the executive order for both Keystone and the DAPL and received no complaints, no phone calls.
Yeah, like there's not still people camping out in the fucking snow over there.
I don't know. When you're wandering on the White House because you have nothing to do in your bathrobe and you got Russian urine in your ears, maybe he's not lying. Maybe it's just a matter of circumstance.
But even in that same thing, he's like, this is gonna create thousands of jobs, and he's like, I think 32,000 or something he names in it, and it's like, yeah, that's gonna create it for the 6 months or 2 years, whatever that the pipe is.
But it's also less than that. I mean, I want to say when they crunched the numbers for Keystone a few years ago, it was in the hundreds.
No, so this is jobs immediately, so those jobs will be there, but they're saying permanent jobs. I think is the number. I think it's 35.
Oh yeah,
So you're talking about 35 permanent jobs. Other,
Basically not fucking worth it. Anyway, we want to give a shout out to Standing Rock. So if you guys are looking to donate, it doesn't matter if it's $2. It really doesn't. Standingrock.org. You can donate there through PayPal. You can also send supplies, anything you want. The protest is pretty much done. The majority of the protesters are gone. This is more of a fight on legal ground at this point. And as this was approved through the Army Corps of Engineers to go through, the Standing Rock tribe did file another federal suit to basically block this, have it rerouted, that sort of thing. Maybe Trump will get the piss out of his ears and hear that. Who knows? But anyway, you can donate at standingrock.com through PayPal to send anything else, money order, whatever you want to do. You can mail it to Standing Rock Sioux Tribe. Sioux is spelled SIOUX. So Standing Rock Sioux Tribe at Attention Donations to P.O. Box number 1 at North Standing Rock Avenue, Fort Yates, North Dakota, 58538. So, you know what? It's win or lose, it was a hell of a struggle, and we thank everybody that, especially the veterans that saw through this. This isn't just a Native American problem. This is just an American problem. This is a corporate greed problem. And to everybody else who's not Native American or doesn't even live in North Dakota that felt compelled enough to donate whether it be their money, supplies, time, to what we have talked about as being, as far as the imagery goes, the worst treatment of protesters since the 1960s. Thank you. Our hat goes off to you guys. And again, we'll keep you posted on that as things move forward.
Yep. So one thing that we talked about a little bit on the news last week was Jerry Brown and Donald Trump have been going at it. Kind of war of words and Twitter. But Jerry Brown's actually, he's turned into a champion for liberals, and really, being in charge of the biggest liberal state in the union, I guess, helps. But he's done well. After Trump was on an interview talking about sanctuary cities, and basically said California was out of control. He said it was basically like a sanctuary, the whole state was. And he says we give tremendous amounts of money to California in many ways, called out of control. So Jerry Brown went back and said, like, hey, if you want to do that, that's fine. You want to stop funding our sanctuary cities, we'll stop paying federal taxes. And looking at the numbers from 2015, California paid the most federal taxes. Jesus, the number is 405 trillion.
Jeez.
So it's a huge number. The next state is Texas, with 279 trillion. So
trillion,
100 trillion,
not billion.
There's a
T.
4 commas. There's 4 commas.
Oh my God! Wow. So I haven't lived in California now for just over a year. But he's my champion. He has been. I've heard my mom talk about when he was governor of California in the 80s. But I've loved him because since last year before, when he sent that big fuck you to the governor of Florida, Rick Scott. We don't compete with you. We compete with countries. Not piece of shit little pissant states that are going to be underwater soon. Speaking of the war of words, we should talk about the healthcare debate between Ted Cruz and Bernie Sanders that took place 2 nights ago. CNN's been doing some good stuff. I got a recording right now. They're doing. My boy Van Jones has his new show called The Messy Truth. He's got Bill Maher on there right now, going toe to toe with the town hall of Trump supporters. But a few nights ago, they had the healthcare debate that was moderated by Dana Bash and Jake Tapper. So, what'd you think?
I thought it was a pretty good debate. And just real quick before, I do want to second that on CNN. It's a little late, but it does seem like the quality of their news and special reports, including these town halls, stepping it up. And Cuomo, he's been a beast.
Right. Well, so is Tapper. I watched the Tapper exchange with Kellyanne Conway a few nights, and we'll talk about Kellyanne here in a little bit. But the exchange that he had with her over the basically the falsehoods that have been spewed out by Trump, and her defense was, well, what about everything he says that is true? It was almost like watching satire. It was like watching, the Daily Show, the Colbert Report. It was like watching one of those correspondent interviews where they tie you in a knot with questions. So hats off to Jake Tapper, man. I mean, CNN should never look this way. I mean, at least it never has to me. And now, I mean, it seems to be blown up. But anyway, let's get back to the debate. So yeah, you're right. There was a lot of substance to it. There was some agreements, which I know it's setting the bar low, but that's honestly the best debate we've watched, I think, throughout the entire election season.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair. And it's too bad they didn't have a debate specifically on healthcare, or that healthcare didn't get brought up enough in the general debates. But
they were too busy insulting each other.
Yeah, but definitely, I mean, I would say it was a unanimous victory for Bernie.
Oh yeah, he totally mopped the floor with him. But I mean, the thing is like Cruz. This is the first time I saw Cruz as a prosecutor, not a politician, and the guy did his research. He had stats. He made decent arguments, and he joked. His more cowbell thing, he should have shut the fuck up. That did not work. That fell flat. But after, there was that time when Bernie was talking about, elderly people having to cut their pills in half and everything. And Ted comes out and he's like, well, Bernie, now that you've convinced everybody I'm trying to kill the elderly. Like, it was funny. It was loose. And, kudos to Ted Cruz. We need to compliment Republicans when they do good things. I did not know Ted Cruz was one of the people that actually, unlike Cory fucking Booker, supported Bernie's importation of Canadian drugs bill, which they're going to reintroduce. So I don't know. I thought it was good, but Cruz did not do a good job as far as dodging questions slyly. It was very obvious.
Yeah, but I think we've basically got to that point where when you hold them up against the wall like that, there's really nothing. That's really all they got. I mean, when they asked him about the top 1% and how much tax money they would save if Obamacare got repealed, I mean, that's a pretty direct question in asking, pretty directly, hey, what do you think about this? And then of course it's like, oh, I got to protect my friend's money, so it's
but you know who didn't dodge? Fucking Bernie. When that woman stood up and she was a 49er, as Ted called her, and she if you guys didn't watch it, this woman owns 5 hair salons in the state of Texas. And basically the question was to Bernie, she only has 49 employees because at 50 or more, you have to provide health insurance. So Bernie asked her, why aren't you providing health insurance? She says, I can't afford it. What are you going to do for me? And Bernie, I respect this from him. He said, for the most part, I mean, there's stuff all over the board that we can do, but for the most part, nothing. If you got 5 hair salons, you have 50 employees, you need to provide health care. A little while later, there's that lady that had MS, told her story that she had to move from Texas to, I think it was Maryland, because Texas didn't expand Medicaid, which was a portion of Obamacare. They refused to do it. So she had to leave Texas and go to Maryland for Medicaid. And after Ted Cruz congratulated her on contracting MS, Bernie stands up and he goes, oh, wait a minute. You got a woman who owns 5 hair salons in Texas, can't afford to pay health insurance, and then you got somebody from Texas that had to move to Maryland because of the laws in Texas. Senator Cruz, I'm not saying this is your fault, but this is your fucking state. Dude, Bernie was on fire. I mean, I don't give a damn. Like, he was great.
And then the other one too, when he said, I didn't want to have to use this, but you know what state has the most uninsured
Oh,
people?
right.
Like,
Yeah, but all together though, I would say this. I think it's the best performance they did. I was fully expecting Ted Cruz to come out and point his finger down and repeal every word of Obamacare with his fucking eyebrow, trying to be all intimidating. He didn't do it once, and I thought it was the best debate we've had. I hope CNN continues. They were teasing at doing one on the economy, and I think this kind of dialogue where it's just two people, you treat it like a presidential debate, and there's no bullshit. I think this is one of the more informative ways to get information from both sides of the aisle.
yeah, I think obviously the problem is you can't like bust in with the Justin Bieber segment or like breaking news.
Yeah, exactly.
Madonna has just but for people like us that actually care about information, yeah, this is what you need. You can sit down. I think this one was an hour and a half.
Yeah, it
But
was about that. It was a
you know,
while.
you listen to it and you have a better understanding of both sides, and then you can make a more informed decision on which way you believe we should go forward with.
And you're
But
hearing it straight from the horse's mouth. Well, the donkeys and the elephants, I guess. But yeah, it was really good. So anyway, I hope they do more. I think that was a great programming decision. Anyway, so right after that was done, as I'm sitting there watching the takeaways from political pundits and all that on CNN, we find out that Elizabeth Warren was told to sit down and shut up for during the debate about nominating Jeff Sessions to Attorney General, which actually happened today. Unfortunately, she stood up and tried to read a letter from Coretta Scott King, who is Martin Luther King's wife, that she wrote Strom Thurmond and Congress in 1986. A few weeks ago, we talked about the history of Jeff Sessions and how he was the only federal judge that was nominated by Reagan that did not make it. And this is the reason why. So she stands up and reads the letter. The letter's been posted on the Facebook page if you guys want to check that out under hashtag read the letter. Elizabeth Warren started reading. She was objected to. She kept reading the letter. And fucking turtlehead Mitch McConnell stood up and formally objected one more time. And the Democratic moderator that was running this apparently had his balls removed and told Elizabeth Warren to sit down.
Yeah, I guess there's a Senate rule where you cannot impugn another senator or something like that.
You can't basically mock their motivations.
So, I mean, to me, this didn't apply. She was taking it wasn't her words. She was taking the words of somebody else and, just putting them out there again. So I didn't think this applied. It was crazy to me. It's actually, I mean, it's turning out to work in her favor. She's getting a
Right.
huge boost. And did Bernie like fly from the debate over there, or I don't know where the debate was, but
no, it was the following day. It was it was right after that. It was Sanders. Cory Booker got up there and actually did. I mean, and I'm not saying this out of a biased way at all, but he didn't really give his best performance. He was just. It was more of a filibuster than anything else, but. Sanders and a few other people actually stood up and read the rest of the letter, and they weren't kicked out. It has to do with being female. I mean, that would be evidence in that direction, but I think the Republicans are tired of Elizabeth Warren and Bernie, for that matter. But I think they are tired of Elizabeth Warren, which I think is I think it's fantastic. That means she's doing what she should be doing.
Yeah, and like I said, I think obviously it was very disrespectful, but I think in the long run it's going to help her out.
Correct. So. And another thing that we posted on there under that exact same post on our Facebook page, you can actually get the phone number to Mitch McConnell's office. What I suggest, what everybody does, get a copy of that letter, and as soon as somebody picks up the phone, just start reading the fucking thing. Fuck him. So, anyway, they're trying to put us back in the 1950s, and unfortunately, they're succeeding a bit. But speaking of ignorance, so Starbucks is not ignorant, but this next part is about Starbucks. So, again, something coming out of Washington. Washington's is rocking it. Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz has responded to Donald Trump's Muslim ban by pledging to hire 10,000 refugees over the next 5 years to work at Starbucks. A quote from a portion from his official statement was, "These uncertain times call for different measures and communication tools that we have not used in the past." Couldn't agree more. This is definitely a creative way to basically embrace these people and get them into our society, because nothing breeds terrorism like fake wars and basically making people not feel at home or safe in their own home or country. But this is where the ignorance comes in. Starbucks has received a shit ton of blowback from day one of announcing this, that why aren't they hiring vets instead of refugees? If anybody gives you this line of bullshit, please let them know that since only 2013, so just 3 years ago-ish, Starbucks has hired 8,800 vets. You can do both.
Yeah. And I mean, Starbucks in the last 5 years has really impressed me.
Right. And they're like the symbol of the 1%, right? In a way. I always thought they were.
Yeah, it kind of is. And I, recently read an article about how they're saying now that they're not fancy enough and they want to make it fancier because normal people are going into Starbucks. So I don't
brown people are going into Starbucks.
No, I mean, I don't, going off the CEO's words, I don't think that's the case. But it's just, I mean, it is kind of a high market kind of product.
Well, he was the first major CEO a few years ago to come out and support the $15 an hour minimum wage and said that's not even enough. They also put together one of the best education sponsorship packages that you can find anywhere. My wife worked for Starbucks years ago, even before they improved the education benefits to going to college while working for Starbucks. And even, her manager basically put himself through school on scholarships and grants and different opportunities, all from Starbucks. And that was before this even happened. This is back in, 2005, 2006. So kudos to them, man.
Yeah. So something we're not giving kudos to, and we haven't, and we don't intend to probably, was big pharma. So the golden boy Donald Trump sat down and met with some CEOs from some of the biggest pharmaceutical companies, and he had his demands, his list of demands. He was going to go in there and tell them, look, we need cheaper prices because I'm here now and I say so. Oh yeah, and you guys keep producing all your drugs in India and China because it's cheap, but that's not acceptable. We need them over here. And he kind of left with them agreeing to continue making their drugs in India and China.
It's not his fault. It's a physical problem. He walked in there and like you said, I mean, his negotiation tactic is completely intimidation. So, they should have heard. But but what they heard was,
yes. So I mean, I guess the idea was good. He talks the talk, but at the end of the day, really, what the CEOs liked was he promised to cut some regulations, put somebody in charge of the FDA that will get drugs through quicker, which means less testing. So we'll see. Well, I'm sure we'll update you on that.
Do you think negotiating with Trump is like having a conversation with George Steinbrenner from Seinfeld? Where it just gets this is what we want. We want, George, I'm telling you right now, we want somebody to come in here and start making their medication here in the United States. Wait, United States. I love the United States. The United States is a great place. George, where are you going? Like, I can imagine that's his he just seems so easily distracted. But what it really seems like is he has nowhere near the amount of balls that he has convinced his supporters that he has. I think that's starting to become clear.
Yeah.
At least I hope so. I mean, I don't know where else I don't know what else he can do at this point, but Speaking of balls, what are our Democrats up to?
What are our Democrats up to? Well, they are voting for Trump's nominees. So even Elizabeth Warren voted for Ben Carson, right? For the HUD secretary, and her excuse was, "I'd hate to see who they would come up with if it wasn't him."
Is that so wrong though?
I think so.
I mean, but honestly, given
you could say that on every single person. Every single person.
You can't say that with Betsy, and that's why nobody voted for her.
I think you still could. I mean, I agree that she was a horrible pick, and even two Republicans broke sides on that one.
Right.
Which Mike Pence having to make that call is pretty shameful. But there is a list of 14 Democrats who voted yes for every Trump nominee so far. Minus this was before Betsy and Sessions, but some of them are Dianne Feinstein, Claire McCaskill, and Kane.
Tim
King. Yeah.
Do you think they were trying to, because they're going to get nominated no matter what? So do you think they were trying to pick and choose their battles?
I think if you look at every single one of Trump's nominees, every single one so far, and I mean we did a show basically where we just talked about just them. I think if you can't logically conclude that this is a bad person for a nominee, you probably shouldn't hold that office as a Democrat. I feel.
Yeah, but I mean, you said there could be somebody worse than Betsy, but at least Ben Carson apparently grew up in under government controlled housing. At least he's lived in it. She's never attended public school.
Yeah, and I see your.
At least he's educated
that bar
too.
Is very low.
I fucking guilty. I totally agree.
So Secretary of EPA. Well, he spent some time in the sun, so he should.
He does. Don't we all live in an environment? I can't remember where I heard this. I think somebody just saw someone else tweet this and told me, but they said this isn't. Yeah, because when I want to get good at something like a video game, I start on the last level because that's how you attack any new task. You start at the highest level of difficulty you possibly could be at. Meaning Betsy has never attended, nor has her children ever gone to a public school. But I did also hear that the Republicans are trying to submit legislation to repeal the Department of Education. So, somebody had to. Congratulations, Betsy. You're now the captain of the fucking Titanic. Good for you. So, anyway, so we said last week that we would talk about kind of what Alex and I were working on and where we're going from here. So, what Alex and I initially started to do was write our own platform. So we both spent countless hours over the 3 weeks off that we had in December, and combed through both the Republican Republican platform as well as the DNC's platform, and basically we started to write our own. And one of the things that we came up with was our 10 key points and our initial opening mission statement, which is basically that no American should, to be a member of this party, no vote should impede the liberty of any other American. If it doesn't affect you, LGBT marriage, abortion, religion, if it doesn't affect you personally, shut the fuck up. But it was written in a nicer way than that. So Alex and I were doing this, and we're not, we're not huge. We're a year into this podcast and we're growing, but we're not massive or anything like that, at least podcast speaking wise. But tricky dick over there. So Alex and I and Nick was involved in it as well, and a few other people that we reached out to, and We started putting some stuff together, and then somebody beat us to the punch. And I went in and read a different platform, and it's almost plagiarism. It's not plagiarism at all, but there's another group out there that's larger than us that has the exact same platform, almost word for word, everything in it that we had, and they have a much bigger audience than we do.
Yeah, and I think not just the platform. I think the idea that we had behind the platform too was it's time. I mean, basically for the Democratic Party to get their shit straight. A lot
Tea
of people
Party,
left.
the left.
Yeah, a lot of people left the Democratic Party after the results of the last election, and a lot of those people, you could understand where they came from. They had hurt feelings, whatever. But it's just people want to be, Democrats and proud of something. And the way that the party has been recently, it's hard to be proud of that. So the idea is to make the left stronger, make the Democratic Party stronger by running real candidates. No more of Republican light or diet Republican.
Yes.
We need real progressive people in all levels of the government, including a lot of state legislators. I believe 70% of them are Republican right now.
Yeah.
So when you think about just things like that, it's like there's so much room for improvement, and what we really need to do is get good candidates out there that care about our values and are not going to just take corporate money and do the same things Republicans do.
Well, and worst off, I mean, if you really want to boil this down to why Donald Trump is president because so many people, not enough, obviously, were completely convinced that it was Hillary's turn. And I don't want to bash Hillary Clinton. She's done way more good for this world than I will probably ever do. She really has. And I don't take that away from her. However, when I see her tweeting today as the ruling of the panel of judges that voted down Trump's Muslim ban, she tweeted 3-0, and she's got 186,000 people that liked it and another 100,000 that retweeted. And I'm just like, I don't ever want to see you again. But then again, where are you? Where you and Obama both. Obama, vacation time's fucking over, dude. Call that shit fucking quits and get your ass back to work like you promised. I love Barack Obama. I think he's the greatest president we've had since FDR. But that shit needs to continue. Get the fuck off of the goddamn kite surfing bullshit you're doing and come the fuck home. If you can, because the president thinks you're a Muslim and he's trying to ban you. So you may want to hurry the fuck up is my point too. But the thing is this all happened because Hillary Clinton and so many people thought it was her turn. And that's the fucked up part of it. But what our real idea was, where this whole thing started, was we wanted to put together a platform that was a coalition, kind of like a NATO of LGBT, Black Lives Matter, Hispanics, Jewish people. Remember, we used to be an atheist podcast, but we wanted religious people in here as well. And that's one of the reasons why you're not seeing that from us anymore. We would love to have the good old days where Alex and I sat around and did, Skeptic Sunday School, where we talked about a certain religion that and some of the stuff that they teach that's just completely bogus, or any of the other stuff that you guys, if you've been listening to us from the very beginning, would hear. And the reason we're not doing that is because we still want the separation of church and state. It's very important to us. We still want to sit around and laugh about religion, but we will do that in our spare time, because right now there is a demagogue in our fucking White House in a robe, wandering the halls in the dark because he doesn't know where the fucking light switches are, watching Fox News for security fucking briefings. Not to mention, he just blamed the Seattle judge if we do have a terrorist attack. We did forget to talk about that. So we're in shambles right now. So let's get to where we want to go. What you guys need to look into is Justice Democrats. Justice, same way it's normally spelled, Justice. Democrats. Check out their platform, and the larger crowd, the larger audience that they have that we don't. The reason for that is this is a collaboration between TYT, the Young Turks, and former organizers and members of the Bernie Sanders campaign. I'm not the largest fan of TYT, but I haven't really. I've watched them. They have a wide range of different people that go on there, but I really appreciate what they are doing. And what's the head guy's name? The big guy?
It's a Jink Unger.
I like that guy. I've never heard him say anything I disagree with, and he's going to be one of the chairmen of this movement. So we don't want to fight against ourselves. That was one of the reasons. That was one of the things Alex and I discussed very early on, is to make sure we're not taking away from other efforts. So this is where we want you guys to go, and that's your activism for this week. Go check out Justice Democrats. Read their platform. Ours was very similar.
Yeah, sign up. They got an email list. Donate, same thing. I donated $10 when I signed up. If you can, do it. If not, just sign up. Put your email in there, and it's the idea is pretty much honestly, it's pretty much the same thing. And when me and Mike started talking about it, and then we saw this and was like, that's exactly. If we had the little bit more exposure, that's exactly pretty much what we would have done. So we're all behind it, and hopefully we get some good progressive candidates. And
speaking of which, their major initiative, one of the things that they can ask you to do, Alex, send me a link to that video. It's about 10 minutes explaining this, and I'll put it up on our site and everything else so you guys can watch it. It's a 10-minute explanation from Unger about what this is, and one of the initiatives that they're trying to do, that they want everybody to do, is if you know somebody that is in a district that's either Republican or in a district that is being ran by somebody that's to the right of center on the Democratic Party, the whole thing is to campaign them primary them as hard as possible. So what they want you to do is basically nominate somebody. Talk to a friend of yours or a family member, or even if you just know of somebody, and write them a letter and say, this is the guy, he wants to do this, or this is a girl, she wants to do this, and here is why I think she would represent our district, or on the Senate level, our state, in the capacity of what the people want and in a progressive way. And they will be reading, as they say on the video, every one of these things, and choosing who they want to back in each of these districts and senates as well. 2018 is going to be here before we know it. 2010 is the reason why we're in the mess that we're in right now. It's one of the reasons we're in the mess that we're in right now, because Democrats do not turn out to congressional elections. We cannot afford to let that shit happen again. So, you got anything else on this?
No, I think that's it. We'll stay involved and keep people updated. But I'm looking forward to seeing how they progress, and like you said, a lot of Bernie guys on there too. So hopefully this thing takes off.
Yeah, and we'll be looking to also collaborate with them. We're going to reach out to their PR reps and see if we can get them on here or us on there to kind of join forces and get you guys more information, because that's what this is all about, is to make sure that we're not fighting with each other. And that's where mine and Alex's platform started, was different special interest groups, whether it be unions or LGBT and everybody like that, is to realize that we're all in this fight together and not to take anything away. So that's how we want to end this fight as well. But with that, we will see you guys next week for ARR News. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook at the Age of Reason Facebook page, AOR_podcast on Twitter. I've had some good ones against Donald Trump lately. You guys might want to check that out. And for everything else, AORpodcast.com. We will see you guys next week with AOR News.